Imagine you just hit a massive, long-awaited milestone. Like your partner is thrilled, and maybe they're pouring a glass of wine to celebrate you.
Right, just totally hyping you up.
Exactly, telling you how incredibly proud they are. And inside, you feel absolutely nothing.
Just total emptiness.
Yeah, in fact, while they are literally smiling at you, your brain is already working overtime. It's generating this bulleted list of reasons why this achievement doesn't actually count.
Oh, I know that feeling so well.
Right, like telling yourself why it was a fluke or why the goal was just too easy to begin with. Why do our brains do that to us?
It is such a brutal cycle.
Really is. So welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are looking at a profoundly intimate piece of writing from Dr. Noma Sandanatzli. She is the creator of the Sacred Return Journal.
Yes, and she refers to herself as a sacred relationship healer, which is a really interesting title.
It is. And her work is essentially this roadmap for women looking to heal their relationships with their periods, their bodies, and their core selves. And she does this through womb, emotional, and pattern healing.
And it's a fascinating approach because pattern healing isn't about, um, just slapping a bandage over a bad habit. It is really about excavating the root.
Digging all the way down.
Exactly. She is looking at the architecture of how we hold ourselves together, like how we learn to survive in the world, and what happens when those survival mechanisms actually start suffocating us.
Which brings us to our mission today. We want to use her deeply personal experience to crack open the psychology of the overachiever.
A group I think a lot of us might reluctantly belong to.
Or absolutely. We are unpacking why so many of us literally cannot physically celebrate our own wins. And we are going to explore this counterintuitive and honestly kind of radical act of sitting with our own pain.
Instead of, desperately trying to extract a lesson from it so we can just move on.
Right. I was thinking about it like a software update. When you're trying to fix a bug in your computer, but the bug you are trying to fix is actually a foundational piece of your original code.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, like you have to acknowledge the base code before you can even attempt to upgrade the system.
And that is exactly what she does here. The source material today is a milestone post she wrote for her Substack publication, but it completely subverts the genre.
Yeah, it really isn't your typical post.
And not at all. Usually a milestone post is a highlight reel. You thank your audience, you share a glossy graphic, and you talk about how #blessed you feel.
Right, the whole performative celebration thing.
Exactly. But Dr. Nensel takes this very common modern experience of hitting a subscriber metric and turns it into a mirror to examine decades of deeply entrenched emotional conditioning.
So let's get into the actual catalyst because it is so vivid. It's a Friday around 6 p.m. She gets an automated email from Substack letting her know she has officially crossed the 100 subscriber mark.
Which is huge.
It is. For anyone putting their art or their voice out into the digital void, that first 100 is monumental. It means real, breathing human beings are voluntarily choosing to listen to what you have to say.
It's the ultimate validation of your voice.
Exactly. So she shares the news with her husband, and he reacts with pure, unadulterated joy. He tells her how proud he is. He kisses her on her big forehead, as she playfully puts it, and he is entirely anchored in the celebration of that moment.
And the tension of the entire piece hinges on her internal reality contracting with his external joy.
Because she's not there with him at all.
No, she's not. She writes, quote, "The overachiever in me didn't flinch. Complete emotional numbness."
Wow. Just totally blank.
Yeah, while he is celebrating, her internal monologue is actively dismantling the achievement. She is invalidating the milestone in real time. But the brilliant part of her work is that she doesn't just judge herself for this numbness. She acts as an investigator of her own nervous system.
Which is where it gets really deep. She traces this absolute inability to feel joy in the present moment all the way back to a very specific childhood pattern.
And for anyone listening who identifies as an overachiever, this is going to sound uncomfortably familiar.
Oh, for sure. She describes being the kind of kid who set impossibly high standards. The specific example she gives is setting a goal to get an 80% on a test.
Okay, pretty standard goal.
Right. But if she got a 78%, she would not celebrate the 78%. She wouldn't look at the vast majority of the material she mastered. She would fixate exclusively on the missing 2%.
Oh man, just agonizing over the margins.
Exactly. To her younger self, that near miss wasn't a partial victory or a solid effort. It was an absolute, unequivocal failure.
It is the brutal binary of perfectionism. You either hit 100% of the arbitrary metric or the value is literally zero. There is no middle ground.
Right.
And she points out that this didn't just happen once, it became her entire persona. She neurologically conditioned herself to withhold celebration for small achievements, particularly if the overachiever inside her deemed the goal, quote, too easy to reach in the first place.
But wait, I have to push back on this a little bit. Because culturally, our entire society is built on that missing 2%.
That is very true.
Like, we reward that exact mindset. Isn't hyperfixating on the margins exactly what drives excellence? I mean, if we are always content with a 78% role, we would never break world records. We would never innovate or push the boundaries of science or art.
You're not wrong. Society loves that drive.
So why is it so damaging to carry this specific, relentless drive into adulthood?
Well, because the physiological and psychological toll is totally unsustainable. Yes, that hyperfixation can produce remarkable external results. The world will absolutely applaud you for it.
Right? They give you promotions and awards.
Exactly. But Dr. Nansel drops this incredibly profound line in the text. She says, quote, "You can never run away from yourself, or you take yourself with everywhere."
Oof, that hits hard.
It really does. If we look at the mechanics of this as a child, fixating on that 2% likely provided a profound sense of control in an uncontrollable environment. It was a strategy to ensure safety, to secure praise from adults, or to avoid criticism. It was literally a survival tool.
When you take a child's survival tool into a safe adult life, well, it becomes a prison.
Perfectly said. It creates a moving goalpost in your brain. If every single achievement is immediately met with, "Yes, but what about the flaw?" or "That was too easy. What's next?" you effectively break your brain's reward circuitry.
You just stop making the good chemicals.
Right, you erode your capacity to produce dopamine or serotonin in response to your own efforts. You achieve the 100 subscribers, but your internal operating system literally will not allow you to feel it.
Because it is already scanning the horizon for the next threat or the next 1,000 subscribers.
Exactly. You render even the most hard-won achievements totally sterile.
Think about what that means for you, the listener. It might not be Substack. It might be finally getting that promotion you worked 3 years for, or running a 5K, or honestly just getting your kids to school on time during a chaotic week.
Or even just cooking a nice dinner.
Yes. But your first instinct is to minimize it, to say, well, the course was flat or anyone could have done it. Dr. Nansel is sitting there with her husband, realizing she has dragged this hypercritical childhood shadow all the way into her living room.
And this is where her expertise in pattern healing takes center stage. Because instead of spiraling into shame, which, by the way, is just another form of perfectionism, she leans into the natural cycles of time to process this realization.
She zooms out.
She does. She points out that every single day presents a new opportunity to meet another version of yourself. And at the time she's processing this, she notes that the moon was in its luteal phase the last quarter.
Right. She processes her psychological state through the lens of lunar and biological cycles. Now, in the human menstrual cycle, the luteal phase is the time right before menstruation.
Right, the PMS window, basically.
Yeah, and the energy naturally turns inward.
Yeah.
But she applies this archetypally to the lunar cycle, framing the last quarter of the moon as a mandatory period of shedding.
It is all about the mechanics of release. In our modern hustle culture, we view shedding or resting as a sign of weakness, or like something we only do when we completely burn out and our bodies force us to stop.
Like we have to earn the rest through exhaustion.
Yes, exactly. But Dr. Nansel reframes this completely. We don't shed because there is something fundamentally broken within us that needs fixing. We shed to create a void.
To make space.
Right. You cannot welcome new capacity, new joy, or new growth if your psychological house is cluttered with outdated survival mechanisms.
And the visual she uses for this phase is incredibly striking. She focuses on the illumination of the moon itself, half illuminated and half in absolute darkness. It is a perfect visual representation of the yin and the yang.
And she dwells on this concept of equilibrium. Western culture has a dangerous obsession with perpetual light, perpetual summer, constant growth, and endless joy.
Toxic positivity, basically.
Exactly. We pathologize the dark, but Dr. Nansel looks at that half moon and sees equality. Dark and light are equal. Good and bad are equal. Joy and sorrow are equal.
So they balance each other out.
Yes, and the implication here is massive. It is a call to start running from the darkness.
Which brings us to the daily reflection she receives from her, quote, Sacred Wound Compass app, NTOMBO. The prompt asks her to do something that honestly sounds absolutely terrifying.
It really does.
It asks her to look at the version of herself that actually calls in painful experiences, the version of herself that orchestrates her own self-abandonment.
It is a really heavy, advanced psychological concept. She is openly acknowledging that there is a shadow aspect of her psyche that actively ensures she experiences pain, even when her conscious, waking mind is desperately trying to avoid it.
Like she's working against herself.
Right. She writes, quote, "She made sure that I experience pain."
Okay, hold on. I have to pause here. Honoring the part of us that calls in pain. If I have a subconscious behavioral pattern that constantly attracts toxic partners or continually sabotages my career right when I am about to succeed, why on earth would I honor that part of myself?
It sounds totally backwards, right?
It really does. Doesn't honoring it validate it? Shouldn't my goal be to completely eradicate the self-saboteur, just root it out and destroy it?
See, if you try to eradicate a part of your own psyche, you are going to war with your own nervous system. And the subconscious will win every single time.
It's bigger and faster than the conscious mind.
Exactly. Let's look at the mechanism of why we call in pain. In psychology, there is a concept called repetition compulsion.
Okay, what is that?
The brain naturally seeks out what is familiar because, to the primitive brain, familiar equals predictable and predictable equals safe, even if the familiar thing is deeply painful.
Oh, wow. So it's like the kid fixating on the missing 2% to maintain a predictable sense of control. Even though it makes her miserable, it's safe because she knows how it works.
Precisely. That self-saboteur, that part of you calling in pain, is almost always a deeply wounded protector part. It is using an outdated, maladaptive strategy to keep you safe from a perceived threat.
Like the threat of actual success.
Yes, like the vulnerability of true success,
Yeah.
or the absolute terror of being truly loved and seen. When Dr. Ninsel talks about honoring that version of herself, she isn't saying, "I love suffering."
She's not glorifying the pain.
No, she is practicing radical shadow work. By looking at that, quote, bad and ugly version of herself and finally acknowledging its presence, she stops projecting her pain onto external circumstances. She says, "I see how you are operating to protect me."
That is so powerful.
It is. When you stop running from the half of the moon that is in the dark, you actually diffuse its power over you.
You can't heal a wound you refuse to look at. And what I really love about her approach here is that she doesn't just leave this in the realm of high-level spiritual theory.
She gets very practical.
Extremely practical.
Yeah.
She grounds this conceptual acceptance into a visceral bodily experience. Because once you realize your intellect is acting as a shield against your shadow, the obvious question is, how do you actually put the shield down?
And she finds a highly practical and honestly incredibly uncomfortable way to do this. She borrows an exercise from another Substack publication called The Rich Woman's Rituals.
The activity is basically to create a conscious ritual, to actually feel the sting of rejection.
Yeah, to intentionally sit with the unsubscribers, the no's, the ignored emails, the objections, all those micro traumas we usually just brush off or power through.
And as she prepares to do this ritual, she uncovers this massive blind spot in her own emotional processing. She realizes that her standard operating procedure when faced with rejection is to completely bypass the raw emotion.
By instantly intellectualizing it.
Yes. She does this by immediately looking for the, quote, lesson in the experience.
And emotional bypassing is an absolute epidemic in the personal development world.
Oh, it's everywhere.
We are constantly conditioned to believe that every failure is a stepping stone. Every rejection is redirection, and every heartbreak is a masterclass in resilience.
Just silver linings all the way down.
Exactly. And while that might be true from a macro 10-year perspective, in the micro moment of the pain, jumping straight to the lesson is just a defense mechanism.
It's like, imagine you accidentally place your bare hand on a red-hot stove burner. The skin is blistering, the pain receptors are screaming, your body is in absolute agony.
Ouch, yes.
Right. But instead of crying out or pulling your hand away and plunging it into cold water, you pull out a notebook with your other hand and start writing a 5-paragraph essay on the laws of thermodynamics and heat transfer.
That is the absolute perfect articulation of cognitive bypassing.
Right. You're using your intellect to build a fortress so you don't have to exist in your own body. Because being in your body hurts too much in that moment.
It's too overwhelming.
But the problem is, while you are writing your brilliant essay on thermodynamics, your hand is still burning. The tissue damage is literally still happening.
And this is exactly how trapped trauma works in the nervous system. When you experience an emotional sting, your body generates an energetic charge that needs to be metabolized.
You need somewhere to go?
Exactly. If you immediately intellectualize the event, if you say, well, I see why they unsubscribed, my content wasn't for them. Here are 3 things I can optimize for next time your brain is doing the work. But your emotional body never gets the signal to process the grief.
It's just stuck.
Yes, you freeze the trauma in your body because you refuse to actually feel the sting.
We weaponize our own personal growth against our humanity. We use our little lessons to abandon our pain.
And she recognizes this trap in herself, so she decides to just break the pattern. She makes the conscious choice to sit in the stillness and just feel the sting.
No silver linings.
No optimizing the strategy, no thermodynamics essays, just the raw, unadulterated burn of rejection.
And what happens next is the real breakthrough.
Yeah.
She writes that by finally just sitting there, sinking into the pain without trying to fix it, it actually felt, quote, damn good.
Which sounds crazy, but it makes perfect physiological sense.
She honors the pain.
Yeah.
She honors the shadow version of herself that was hurting, and she simply offers it grace. She says to that part of herself, I see you. Thank you.
It feels damn good because she is finally allowing her nervous system to complete the stress cycle.
The cycle can finally close.
Exactly. The sheer amount of daily energy it takes to constantly intellectualize your pain, to constantly run from the dark side of your own moon is exhausting. When you finally stop running, drop the armor, and let the pain wash over you, there is an immense physiological relief.
You're no longer fighting reality.
Yes, you are finally being congruent with your actual reality. You are letting the wound breathe.
And Dr. Nassel doesn't just share this breakthrough and walk away. She extends a very specific, challenging invitation to the reader, and by extension to you listening right now.
It's a very confronting invitation.
It is. As the moon descends, she asks you to look at your own life, to look directly into the areas that are causing you pain. But here's the catch. She asks you to specifically look at the places where you have been blaming other people for that pain.
That is the absolute crux of the shadow work. She is asking you to stop shutting down the version of yourself that attracted or permitted this pain.
Stop pointing the finger outward.
Right? Instead of fighting that part of yourself or trying to instantly fix it with a new habit or a, software update, she asks you to offer it grace. To look at the part of you that self-sabotages or accepts less than you deserve or fixates on the missing 2% because it's terrified of losing control.
The frightened kid inside.
Yes, look at that part of yourself and use her mantra. Say to it, I see you, thank you.
It fundamentally shifts how we relate to ourselves.
Yes.
And it really illuminates the depth of the work she is facilitating inside the Sacred Return Journal.
It's not surface level stuff at all.
Not even a little bit. Just to give you an idea of how deep her compass goes, some of the upcoming piece titles mentioned in the source include the hidden pattern behind I've Got This, Women in Relationships, and You Were Never Meant to Lose Yourself in Love.
Oh, those titles alone speak volumes.
They really do. She is tackling the invisible scaffolding of our lives.
She is dismantling the coping mechanisms that masquerade as our greatest strengths. The overachiever, the I've got this woman who never asks for help. These are often deeply exhausted individuals carrying profound childhood wounds under heavy, heavy armor.
Her work is a permission slip to finally put the armor down and rest in the dark.
Just letting the dark be the dark.
We spend so much of our lives trying to optimize our experiences. We rush to extract a tidy lesson from our failures so we can quickly abandon the discomfort of the moment. We sprint toward the light, totally terrified of what the dark might actually show us.
Running from the very thing that could heal us.
Exactly. But if our immediate instinct is always to extract the lesson and run, what profound hidden parts of ourselves are we leaving behind in the dark?
We abandon the exact half of the moon that needs our attention the most.
So we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today. The next time you experience a setback, a painful rejection or a failure, what would happen if just for a moment you refused to learn anything at all from it and simply allowed yourself to feel the burn?